Block 2. Welcome to 2017. Happy New Year. Your last semester as seniors. Woohoo! We got some things to talk about before I get you back into the lab working on your IRPs. So bear with me. Important information to be shared here. All right, first of all, let's look at the schedule. This is a slide from before holiday. Just a reminder, we have 9 classes where you're going to do IRP work and a self-study of the option with the draft due on the 1st of February. First in, first out, and a guarantee if you submit your draft on time, I will give it to you with feedback before the GCW. The proposed agenda for after IRP work time and before GCW, and then after GCW, and then after mock exams. We'll talk about these and make some decisions together. IRP due date is 3rd of March. I need time to work on these because each draft and each marking of these takes me between 30 minutes and an hour. Do the math, 35 students. It's a fair amount of work. Now, I don't say that to complain because you have a lot of work to do as well, but just to share that information. Now, I want you to go to the options page of Haiku. On the options page of Haiku, I discuss how to study the options. If you are going to study option D, which is medicinal chemistry, then I am going to run that option as a typical unit, except it's mostly self-study. I'll have videos with notes, handouts. I have practice problems, all of that ready for you. If you're going to choose to study one of the other options, it is not fully supported. I'm not a superhuman with superpowers that I can create 4 units of work in the space of 1 unit. So I'm working on option D as the most important. That is the option that was the most popular of your choices when you took a survey a while ago. Now, if you scroll down on that options page, you will see there's a calendar down here, and I'll update the calendar periodically. Each option has its own page. So let's take a look. So this is the options page. Here's the calendar that you can look at if you'd like, and I'll update that as we go. Now, option A is materials. There's not a lot about materials out there. Option A is the least popular option of all of the options. In my time at ISB and in my conversations with other chemistry teachers, it is the least popular option. There are some videos out there as a resource for you if you choose option A, but the reality is I don't have a big background in material science, and you're taking a bit of a risk by choosing to study an option where I can't offer a lot of support. Now, if I look at option B is biochemistry, and this is a popular choice for students taking biology. Although if you're taking biology, you're certainly not obligated to study biochemistry. But I will say that taking biology, there's a great deal of overlap, and having taken biology will help you in your understanding of biochemistry option for chemistry. Mr. Sugiyama Jones, a friend of mine in Japan, or well, Twitter friend, kind of know him a little bit, met him once. He has created some videos. They're quite high quality, maybe better than my videos actually, for biochemistry. I've got the text and worked solutions in the Google Drive folder as well. Option B is a self-study option. Option C is energy. I have the Google Drive folder for energy. This is a relatively popular choice for students taking physics because there's a great deal of overlap with physics. Again, Mr. Sugiyama Jones has some videos, and then Mr. Thornley has videos for this option, but when I looked, it was incomplete. Mr. Thornley creates videos that are a bit of a virtual reality world, and it's not really my style of video, but you can certainly check them out if you'd like. Again, this option is not fully supported. If you choose this option, you're choosing to work on your own. And you might say, well, Mr. T, why aren't you supporting the options? Well, because I'm one human being and I don't have enough time to create 4 full units worth in the course of when we study this option. I will say that a majority of my colleagues in sciences basically just teach one option. They pick an option and they teach it to everybody. Everybody gets the same option. So I could say, well, I'm doing that for option D. but I prefer to give you choice. So if you want to study another option, you can, but you have to understand that there are some drawbacks to that. The drawback is you're a bit more on your own. Now, if you're going to study option D, I give you a bit more guidance. I have a tracking sheet to take you through the option and all the different steps. It says here, overall review specimen paper for option D. I will actually give that to all of you no matter what option you choose, and that will come later. If you are studying option D, I have videos for you as well. So that's where we are in terms of the options. In terms of photocopies, I'm probably going to provide them for option D, and I'm going to take a poll sometime this week or next week when I get back and ask you to tell me whether you want photocopies from me or not. And for now, you can just print your own and stay on track that way. Now, one of the things I want to let you know about is for option D, for simplicity, I don't worry about the timing of the video. So if some end up being really long, we'll pause the video when you need to. This is self-paced. So if you've got a heavy homework night because of other things, I know that's probably every night, but you know my meaning here. If you've got something really important coming up, work on it and save the options work for some other time. But don't fall behind, because if you do fall behind, you will end up in trouble later. Our final assessment for this will be sometime in February or March, and we'll make a decision about that together. I mentioned this about photocopies. I put it on a slide just so I wouldn't forget to tell you. Excuse me. Tentatively, I'm working on a guest speaker. Even if you're not going to choose the medicinal chemistry option, this guest speaker might be actually really interesting for you. His name is David Foley, Dr. Foley. He is a PhD medicinal chemist working in university in the UK. And I've had him speak to a number of different classes, once in Bucharest and last year with my seniors. Very interesting person. He knows way more about medicinal chemistry and drug design than I do. And so we'll talk more about this later, and I'll see if I can make it work if there's enough interest. Now, when you're working on your IRP today and Thursday and next week, even when I'm back, the most important consideration is safety. Always need to be thinking about safety when you're working in the lab. Always be aware of your own work, be aware of the people who are working around you, move slowly and deliberately, share the space, and if you're unsure, ask. Remember that I told you even though I'm gone for these 2 days, Mrs. Hansberry and Miss Kenobi will be dropping in to visit. I know they're both excited to be here. Mrs. Hansberry knows you and she can't wait to come in and visit with you. And I know Miss Kenobi misses being in the chemistry classroom. She did used to be a chemistry teacher, and since she misses it, she's really interested in coming back. You can ask them for guidance and feedback. The second most important consideration is staying organized. I'm going to give you a video after this, a very short clip about where things are in my classroom. One of the keys is keeping my classroom organized. You got to plan your time well enough so that you can clean up at the end of class and not be rushed. Stay organized. I also need you to be flexible. You got to remember that Kunlinda has to put together equipment materials requests for 35 students just for our class, between block 1 and block 2, and that doesn't include the other 10 science teachers that she has to work for in terms of preparing labs. So be flexible. If you're missing something, it could be my fault that I didn't communicate that clearly to Kunlinda. Kunlinda will be around and happy to help you in my absence, but just be flexible. If she doesn't have something, find out if you need to change your procedure because of it. I know a couple of you I've been in email conversation with about changing your procedure because I don't have something. Other thoughts? Record as much data as possible. Too much data is better than not enough. And I'm not suggesting that you ignore data that is an unethical misuse of data. I'm talking about collecting data that I didn't end up needing because I chose or because I realized it wasn't important, but I still had it there. Too much is better than not enough. And this second bullet point is actually really important. So if you've been sleeping while watching this video, it's time to wake up. If you have a simple controlled variable like temperature or pressure, in your lab report, I do not want you to say use room temperature and room pressure because they'll always be the same, because they're not always the same. You should actually record the pressure and temperature throughout the experiment so that you can say whether it really was controlled. And then if it wasn't very well controlled, it's not your fault because you work in a room with 18 other people. What you can discuss is in your evaluation, you can talk about why a particular trial was an anomaly, because that day the air pressure was really high because there was a storm system coming through or something like that. Also make sure you're recording uncertainty for every type of data you are recording, every column, raw data. Propagate your uncertainties through your calculations. Remember the schedule, 9 days. That's far more than any other science class that I've ever heard of. But remember that you need to be working on your option also. I might open up the lab on a Saturday, to be determined. Obviously not the upcoming Saturday, January 14th, but some future Saturday. I might have it open for you for a couple hours. I'll see based on your need and my availability. Now I'm going to try something new. Pause the video if you need to. Create a Google Doc with a title something like Chemistry IRP Working Document and put your name in it in your Google Drive somewhere in the chemistry folder. Copy a link and share it with me. Don't email me. I don't necessarily need editing privileges. I need commenting privileges. But I want you to share the link with me using the assignment submission form. So if you need to pause the video to kind of make this happen, feel free to do so. I'm trying something new. If it doesn't work, you need to tell me. But if it does work, I want to know as well, because I always want to make my teaching better. And this is something I'm trying to see if I can make my teaching better. I will endeavor to check your working document once every rotation, once every 2 days, to see if you have any questions. For example, throw some data into your document and ask me directly to give it a glance if you feel unsure about the data, and I'll make a comment. Urgent needs, of course, you can talk about asking Mrs. Hansberry or Miss Kenobi. You can also email me. In Amsterdam, I'm about 6 hours ahead of you, so your early mornings, I'm going to be asleep. But send me an email and I'll answer it as soon as I can. Last thoughts for now, although I do have one more short video to show you some things about the classroom. Be sure to record a trial run as soon as possible, whether that's today or Thursday. Thursday you have HL time, so you'll have the full hour and 55 minutes if you want to use that time on Thursday going until 3 o'clock. Try and get a trial run as soon as possible to see if your method is viable. And if it's not, you need to make some changes. Take pictures along the way. Enjoy the chaos. Watch the next video because it gives you important information about what's in the classroom and maybe what's not. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you next week.